By the time this video comes out, I'll be married, so I think I'm qualified to give dating advice. Hey guys, welcome back to KingdomCraft, where we build churches in Minecraft while talking about Christianity, and I think my sanctuary is starting to look pretty good over here. I've got a nice theological library over here, and I did some nice work on the exterior of this place. For most of this sanctuary's history, it's looked kind of like an ugly cave in the middle of this hill, but it's starting to look better. It's starting to look better. So today I'm going to be going mining while I talk about dating. There's two main questions when it comes to Christian dating. Number one, is it okay to date a non-Christian? And number two, is it okay to date a Christian of a different denomination, assuming that you're Christian? So for those of you who don't want to hear me talk for like 20 to 30 minutes, which I can understand, the answer to the first question is no. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't be dating a non-Christian. The answer to the second question is, yeah, you can date someone of a different denomination, but there are practical concerns. But first, let's address the first question. I do not believe Christians should date non-Christians, and there's two reasons for this. Number one, Christians are not allowed to marry non-Christians. I know a lot of modern Christians are very loosey-goosey about this issue, but the Bible is very clear that we should not be unequally yoked to unbelievers. There's a passage where Paul explicitly says, if a woman's husband dies, she may remarry, but only in the faith. The reason that Paul saves the explicit command about marrying in the faith for remarriage is because a lot of Paul's audience are marriages where the husband is Christian and the wife is not Christian, or where the wife is Christian and the husband is not Christian, because Paul was writing to a bunch of new believers, and in communities of brand new, fresh converts, it's very common for one spouse to be converted and the other spouse not to be converted. So according to Paul's teaching, if one spouse is a Christian and another spouse is not a Christian, the Christian spouse shouldn't divorce the non-Christian spouse. That's not justified at all. So it's not an excuse for divorce, because the Bible is basically always against divorce, except in some very rare cases like adultery. But Paul says that if you have the option to marry someone new, like a wife whose husband dies, you should only marry in the faith. So there are many cases of Christians who are already married to unbelievers, and there's nothing you can do about that. You're not supposed to divorce those people, because divorce is a sin. Divorce is something Christians should not do. But if you have the option to marry whoever you want or to not get married, Christians should only marry in the faith. The Bible is very clear about that. This is one of the reasons I don't like the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church, as of recently, I think they used to not say this, they changed a lot of their views, but the Roman Catholic Church nowadays says it's okay to marry non-Catholics, meaning non-Christians, because they think Catholics are the only true Christians, but they think it's okay for Catholics to marry like Jews or Muslims or atheists, as long as there is some commitment to raising the kids in the faith. And we know that almost never happens. When a Catholic lady marries a non-Christian guy, what are the chances that those kids will actually be raised Catholic? Or if they are raised with some semblance of Catholicism in their lives, what are the chances they're going to stay in the church? Basically nothing. I do think a father being in the faith is more influential than like a mother being in the faith, but even so. So it's very clear from the Bible that you're not supposed to marry anyone who is outside the faith. And let me just give a theological explanation, because I'm not a Baptist, so simply saying the Bible says so might not be enough. It's not that we don't trust the Bible, but we also believe God's commands aren't arbitrary, and there is a good reason for everything God says. This isn't just some test of obedience where God is commanding random things, hoping that we'll just blindly follow him enough to obey him just because he said it. Now, if there is a command from God and you don't understand it, you still do have to obey. It's not like we can only obey God's commands if we can understand why he made those commands, because then we're not obeying him, we're just agreeing with him. So we're not saying that either. But it is good to understand why certain commands exist, because all of God's commands are actually for our good. God actually wants us to prosper and to flourish. So here's why. Marriage is a covenant. It is a covenant between a man and a woman. A covenant is like an agreement. It's the strongest type of alliance. All Christians are already in covenant with Christ. So a Christian who is married is in covenant with Christ and in covenant with another person. But if this other person is not in covenant with Christ, that is what we call a conflict of interest. And not only is this person not in covenant with Christ, this person is an enemy of Christ if they are not in covenant with Christ. Because Christ himself said you are either for him or against him. What's this block? Is this like the... I think this is one of the blocks in the new update or something. As Obi-Wan Kenobi said, only a Sith deals in absolutes. I think there are many parallels between Jesus and Sith ideology, because Star Wars is very Buddhist influenced, where you're not supposed to think in these cold, hard absolutes. But Christianity is actually quite absolutist about this. You are not supposed to date non-Christians. That's one absolute. And another absolute is you're either for Jesus or against Jesus. No one is Switzerland when it comes to Jesus. So, what's this? What is this? I've never seen this before. So, what it seems like to me, and I think it's this way objectively, if someone is in communion, if someone is in covenant with Christ, and in covenant with someone else who's an enemy of Christ, that's basically like a country during World War II having an alliance with both Britain and Germany at the same time. Let's say, so that's basically what it is like to be in covenant with Christ and to be in covenant with someone who is an enemy of Christ. And because marriage is supposed to be one of the most intimate covenants, you really don't want to... This is a weird place. I do not know what this is, nor do I like this. I've never seen this before. Did the pink sheep put this here? Wait, why am I blind? Why can't I see? Okay, I'm kind of scared. Anyway, I'm going to try and keep focusing on the topic at hand. But basically, oh yeah, Christian marriage. So that's the rational reason for why you cannot marry an unbeliever. It's a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of interest to your relationship with Christ. But what about dating? Why can't you just date an unbeliever and, like, not marry them? Well, dating is a very modern concept. I know there's some people who think we shouldn't be dating at all. We should just be courting. Honestly, for most of the time I was in my relationship with my fiance, we called ourselves, courting. We didn't say that we were dating because we wanted to sound, cool and fundamentalist. But yeah, dating as we know it today did not exist until very recently. There was courtship, but courtship was specifically for the purpose of marriage, and the parents were involved. So casual dating, where it is not necessarily intended to lead to marriage, is such a modern thing. Now, just because it's modern doesn't mean it's bad. Like, I am playing Minecraft. That is also a modern thing. So if every modern thing is sinful, then I am definitely in trouble. But you know what I mean. There is no biblical view of dating because dating doesn't exist in the Bible, but just use reason. The Bible gives us wisdom. The Bible doesn't give us a specific answer to every single possible question or issue that could ever come up, but the Bible does give us wisdom. The Bible gives us wisdom for lots of different scenarios. And I think the biblical wisdom regarding dating is that it should basically be for marriage, because the reason human sexuality exists in the first place is for marriage. So technically the Bible doesn't explicitly say that casual dating is sin, but I still think it is. I still think the Bible gives us wisdom to conclude that it's sin. And I have a funny story about this. So when I became Christian, I didn't immediately adopt all of the Christian sexual and relational ethics. I never went too far before marriage, but I still did things I shouldn't do. Like, I dated a non-Christian for a year. I dated a Jewish girl for a year, and it was a disaster. And eventually I learned, okay, I probably shouldn't do that. So next I briefly just dated like a Christian girl at summer camp, and I thought, okay, now that's good. But I didn't intend for that to be long-term because we lived in opposite ends of the country, and I intended it for it to be just temporary. And get this, my Christian friend, this Christian dude I was friends with at summer camp, literally sabotaged our relationship on purpose by telling her that she was just my rebound. And I was like, dude, what the heck? Why did you sabotage my relationship? And he was like, well, it was sinful for you to just date temporarily just for fun. You shouldn't have been doing that anyway. And I was like, yeah, you're actually right. So bros will always sabotage each other's unbiblical relationships. That is the most important thing. So, Premise 1, marriage is only to be within Christians, and 2, dating is only to be for marriage. So, the conclusion, you should only date other Christians. Okay, I'm glad we can be clear about this. Okay, where does this lead? I think there's like a city that this leads to, and I think the city has like lots of loot, so I want to try and get that loot if I can. I have no idea what this place is, though, and it's a bit scary. Okay, so now let's move on to the question of whether Christians can date across denominations. I think the answer is yes, because these denominational barriers are real, but they're human. They're not divine barriers. So a Catholic and a Protestant are still both in covenant with the same Christ. Yeah, they have different faith traditions, but the difference is on the human side. I mean, maybe if you're either a Catholic or more of a fundamentalist Protestant, you might think there actually is like a divine spiritual difference between Catholics and Protestants. Oh, there's diamonds up there. If you think one of them is like Christian and one of them is not. But even so, I believe that there are legit Christians in various denominations, even if you might disagree with me on which denominations specifically count as Christian and which don't. I think both Catholics and Protestants are indeed Christian, yes. So because of that, it's not... Okay, I don't like these sounds at all. Because of that, it's not sinful to date across denominations. Not one bit. But there are practical concerns. You have to be aware of these practical concerns. Okay, why am I blind here? Let me get my torches. You have to be aware of these practical concerns with dating across denominations. For example, let's say a Baptist girl and a Presbyterian guy want to get married, and they want to have kids. Well, are they going to baptize their babies or not? That's an important theological issue. One of them is going to have to compromise on their theology. And personally, I would not want to marry someone who does not care enough about theology to stand by her convictions. So you would either be dating someone who will not compromise with you on theology, or you would be marrying someone who is willing to compromise, and that means she or he probably does not care enough about their theology to like put up a serious argument about it. Neither of those options are ideal. So if you can make it work, great, but that is something you need to consider. Another thing is, if you are dating or marrying across denominations, is this denomination close enough that you could hypothetically attend the same church? Because I do think it's very important for families to all attend church together. It's very important for the kids to see that the family, the mother and the father, are collaborating in raising them Christian together. I think that's very important. If the mother and father are going their separate ways on Sunday mornings, what are the kids going to be raised as? Are you going to let the kids decide for themselves? What message does that send them? Now, once again, are the denominations close enough that you could attend each other's churches? So if it's like a Presbyterian guy and a Lutheran girl, or an Episcopalian girl, yeah, you could make that work. It wouldn't be the end of the world for me to attend a Lutheran church. I think most Lutherans would be willing to attend a Presbyterian church. Or if like Presbyterian or Episcopalian, Presbyterian and Congregationalist, even Presbyterian and Methodist, that could work. But if it's like Baptist and Catholic, or non-denominational and Anglican, that's quite a bit different. So once again, you would either have someone who you can't compromise with, and you just have to go your separate ways on Sunday mornings, which is not good, or someone who just doesn't care enough about their faith to really put up a fight, and that's also not good. So ideally, you would just be on the same page about faith. Now, my fiance and I agree on basically every theological issue, and when we disagree, it's about very, very nuanced things, and usually we have a mutual agreement where we won't form any strong opinions unless both of us are on the same page. Like the last time we had a dispute theologically, my fiance originally got me to believe in sort of ministerial apostolic succession, where apostolic succession is legitimate but carried down through presbyters rather than bishops. But then she got me to hold to that, but then she sort of started to change her mind on that. So then I sort of debated her on that briefly, but then I realized, I was probably right the first time that, apostolic succession is really just consists in doctrine, not some magic line of bishops or elders. So we both sort of flip-flopped on that and were chasing each other around that issue. But this was a very nuanced issue. This wasn't an issue of like, are we going to baptize our babies or not? So yeah, there's practical concerns when it comes to raising children in the faith, but you can make it work. I know very good Christian couples where one of them is Catholic and one of them is Protestant. My parents are an example of that. And it worked out okay because I'm a Christian and I'm an only child, so there weren't problems with raising kids in the faith that way. But you never know. You might not always be fortunate like that. So there are these practical concerns. I would say make sure you pray and you talk to your pastor and your elders regardless of what decision you're going to make. But the most important thing is that you're faithful to Christ, because faithfulness to Christ is more important than, having a good relationship. And Christ is Lord over every area of our lives, including our love lives. So that means that needs to be submitted to Christ, and that means you should not date or marry outside of Christ. Okay, guys, I finally found this End City thing, so let me get some stuff. There's a diamond hoe. There's some books. I can add these books to my library. Wait, are these books about supralapsarian Calvinism? I think they are. I don't like these noises, though. What's going on here? Nice berries. Oh, echo shards. That looks cool. That looks like a really cool thing. But why does everything keep getting, like, dark or whatever? Another hoe? Why do I need, like, such an advanced, like, diamond hoe? What is this place? Oh, candle. I don't have a candle yet. I can take one of those. Okay, what are these blocks that keep moving anyway? Okay, let me read some of this book. I think this book is about Wilhelmius van Diper's systematic theology. I'm going to bring this back to my library. I think another one of these books is probably by Thomas Aquinas. What? What just hit me? I just lost a lot of, like... What? It says I was obliterated by a sonically charged shriek. I didn't even see that, and now I'm back in my bedroom at my house. I lost all my stuff. Oh, look, someone else is here. Oh, hi. Okay, you know what? I think I should be giving up on this base after all. I should be giving up on here. This base is ugly. I have to admit it. I have to finally go back and reconquista St. Athanasius Presbyterian Church from the pink sheep. Alright, but before I go, I need to give this place over to my good friend, John the Independent Fundamental Baptist Jr. Okay, dude, this whole sanctuary, including this church, is all yours. You can... Why are there so many chickens in this church? Why do chickens always keep spawning everywhere I go?